One of the most challenging positions in all of sports, hockey goaltenders are cut from a different cloth. Over the history of the NHL, the league has seen a steady stream of talented players who have tended the twine and become historic legends in some competitive markets. It's rare that a goalie spends their entire career with one franchise, but I'm sure each team's loyal fan base can handpick some of their favorite backstops from different eras. These goaltenders often leave their mark in each city they spend time in, but some stops create more memories than others, while other tenures may have ended with a memory long forgotten. When you think of the history of goaltending in Vancouver, there are two names that likely come to mind: Roberto Luongo and Kirk McLean. For parts of 11 seasons, McLean was the de facto number one netminder for the Canucks, having played over 500 games in Vancouver, racking up 211 wins and 19 shutouts, and that included a career-high 38 wins during the 1991-92 season. His 516 games played in a Canucks sweater is the most in franchise history, which is why many fans remember McLean when they look back at some of the most memorable names of Vancouver lore. While McLean's tenure was most notable in Vancouver, the second winningest goalie in Canucks history began his career as a member of the New Jersey Devils. Drafted 107th overall in the 6th round of the 1984 draft, McLean played just 6 games in the Garden State before being traded to Vancouver in 1987. After 10 years on the Canadian coast, McLean was traded to Carolina for an 8-game stint with the Hurricanes. Following that, he played 37 games for the Florida Panthers and 45 games for the New York Rangers. He retired following the 2001 season. One of the most acrobatic and unconventional goaltenders to ever play the game, Dominik Hasek is considered by some to be one of the greatest to ever play the position. Drafted into the NHL in the 10th round of the 1983 draft, it would be 8 years before Hasek would ever suit up for the team that drafted him, the Chicago Blackhawks. A forgettable start in the Windy City, the Czech netminder became a household name during the early 1990s when he was traded to the Buffalo Sabres in the summer of 1992. Easily one of the best goaltenders in the history of the franchise, Hasek's heroics led him to second on the team's all-time wins list with 234 in just 491 games played. His 55 shutouts are a franchise record, as is his 2.22 goals against average and .926 save percentage. During his time in Buffalo, Hasek won the Vezina Trophy as the league's top goaltender 6 times during his 9 seasons, including 2 Hart trophies as NHL MVP. It wasn't until Hasek was traded to the Detroit Red Wings, where he won 2 Stanley Cups between 2001 and 2009. But often forgotten, Hasek did wear another team's silks during his illustrious NHL career, albeit short-lived. Some forget that the Dominator played 43 games in Canada's capital, winning 28 games for the Ottawa Senators during the lockout-shortened 2005-2006 season. A goaltending stalwart of the 1990s and early 2000s, Ed Belfour was considered one of the best money goaltenders of his era. Eddie the Eagle made his name as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, earning Rookie of the Year honors during his first season in the NHL, coming in the 1990-91 season. His 43 wins that year were the highest of his career, but his time in the Windy City is quite revered, sitting top 5 for the Hawks in many statistical categories. While he made a name for himself with the Hawks, Belfour's greatest success came after he left Chicago. Belfour was traded to San Jose for a brief 13-game stint in 1997, but later signed with the Dallas Stars that summer. 2 years after signing in the Lone Star State, Ed Belfour would become a champion, backstopping the Stars to the only Stanley Cup of his NHL career in 1999. After 5 years in Dallas, the Eagle moved on to Toronto, where he played 3 years with the Maple Leafs. His final season in the NHL would be in the 2006-07 season, with a 58-game finale with the Florida Panthers. Considered by many to be the greatest goaltender to play in the NHL, Martin Brodeur left a lasting legacy during his time in New Jersey. The 20th overall pick of the Devils in the 1990 entry draft, Brodeur holds a handful of records in the position, including, but not limited to, games played, wins, shutouts, wins in a season, and 40-win seasons. Amongst all of his regular season success, Brodeur has a trophy case full of hardware, including the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year in the 1993-94 season, 4 Vezina trophies as the league's top netminder, 5 Jennings trophies for the best goals against average, and all of this is complemented by 3 Stanley Cups. He was destined to be a New Jersey lifer, and his number 30 was retired by the Devils, never to be worn again. But lest we forget, Brodeur, at the age of 42, decided he wanted to play one more season, signing a 1-year contract with the St. Louis Blues a couple of months into the 2014-15 season. After just 7 games and a month later, Brodeur retired from the NHL. He is now an executive with the Devils franchise in New Jersey. A third-round pick of the Detroit Red Wings, the native of Peace River, Alberta, gave back to the team that drafted him in spades. Selected 54th overall in 1991, Chris Osgood played parts of 14 seasons in the Motor City, winning the Jennings Trophy in 1995-96 and again in 2007-2008, having the fewest goals scored against him in each season. Osgood also had his name etched on the Stanley Cup on 3 separate occasions, winning back-to-back titles in 1996-97 and again in 97-98, and then one more time in the 2007-08 season. His 317 wins are second all-time with the Red Wings, trailing only the great Terry Sawchuk. He also has the distinction of being one of very few goalies to have ever scored a goal in the NHL.
Osgood scores! Chris Osgood does the unthinkable. You don't see that too often. This is a goaltender's dream. He's got the 5 shutouts, and now he's just added a goal.
To say that Osgood is often remembered as a Detroit staple is an understatement. But over the course of his 17 years in the NHL, Osgood's journey made 2 separate stops that are not always remembered. In 2001-2002, Osgood was claimed on waivers by the New York Islanders, where he played less than 2 seasons before being traded to St. Louis in 2003. He returned to Detroit in 2005, where he stayed until retiring in 2011. If you ask the greatest players of the 80s, they'll tell you Grant Fuhr is the greatest big-game goalie of all time. While there is certainly some room for argument, what can't be argued is the legacy left by the veteran of over 860 NHL games. The Stanley Cup champion was part of all 5 Edmonton Oilers titles, and in 2017 was named as one of the top 100 greatest NHL players of all time. He won the Vezina Trophy as the league's best goaltender in 1988, and in 2003 was the first black player ever inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Grant Fuhr is often regarded as the greatest goaltender in Oilers history and one of the best to ever play the game. His legacy in Edmonton will forever stand the test of time. And yet, despite being regarded as a member of the Edmonton Oilers, Fuhr enjoyed many stops in a variety of NHL markets. Prior to the start of the 1991 season, Fuhr was dealt to Toronto as part of a large 7-player deal, but he played less than 2 seasons with the Maple Leafs. Before the end of the 1993 season, Fuhr was off to Buffalo, but that tenure was also relegated to less than 3 seasons before being traded to Los Angeles. After just 14 games in California, Fuhr signed with St. Louis in 1995, where he played 4 seasons with the Blues. In 1999, he achieved the rare feat of being one of very few players to suit up for both sides of the Battle of Alberta after being traded to the Calgary Flames. It would be his final season in the NHL before retiring in 2000. That does it for this episode. What are some more examples that you remember? Any other players in different jerseys that never looked right to you? Leave some of your thoughts in the comments below and maybe we'll include them in a future video. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep your stick on the ice.